I never imagined the quiet hum of our apartment could hold a secret so loud it would break everything. Nisha and I had woven ordinary life into something that looked solid. Morning coffee on the balcony, shared playlists, the awkward little rituals that mean you know someone. She worked hard, kept late hours, and sometimes I resented the calendar that seemed to own her. But resentment is a small thing compared to suspicion, and suspicion is a slow-burning coal that can light fires in the body if you don't stomp it out. The first real sign came as a fragrance I didn't recognize on her sweater and a flinch when I reached for her phone. She told me she needed space, that her job was stressful, that I should trust her. I wanted to. I wanted to be the good man who trusts, but the odd angles of her explanations kept collecting in my head like evidence. One evening, she left her laptop open on the dining table while she took a long shower, the kind of forgetfulness that felt like an invitation. I told myself I wouldn't look. I told myself I trusted her, that peeking would make me petty and small. But curiosity is a cunning thief. I clicked the hidden folder she'd named with a meaningless date, and the world tilted. There, in pixel-perfect betrayal, were videos. My wife and a coworker in a hotel room, their bodies familiar with each other in ways they had not been with me for months. They laughed at jokes I'd never heard. They kissed in the kind of leisure that meant repetition. There was a cruelty in how ordinary it all looked. Ordinary sheets, ordinary light, ordinary conversation, but nothing ordinary about the way that intimacy had been hoarded away from me. I felt the floor drop out and something in me went very cold. I saved the files. Then I saved them again in multiple places, naming them in a way that felt absurdly methodical. Dates, timestamps, the name of the hotel. I downloaded bank receipts that showed charges to the minibar and Uber trips that matched the timestamps. Every piece I collected felt like armor. I did not want to be a man who exploded into the life of the person he loved and behaved like a character in a bad movie. I wanted a truth so complete that denial would have nowhere to hide. When the private investigator I hired returned with additional photos of them arriving at the same hideaways and a report on the coworkers' pattern of late-night meetings, the picture had hardened into something indisputable. The betrayal was a little architecture, plans, timings, and habitual choices. I planned my response the way someone plans a difficult surgery. Revenge is a word that tastes like vinegar. I didn't want to poison myself with it. I wanted consequences, not a performance. Her birthday provided the setting. She'd insisted on a big party with friends, family, and co-workers, a night she'd been talking about for weeks. "Promise me you'll take charge of the slideshow," she said, delighted that I was finally participating. She loved attention like a plant loves sun. I volunteered, hiding the way a hand hides a stone in its palm. For a week I rehearsed how to appear casual, practiced laughing at jokes I didn't find funny, and kept the files ready on a thumb drive, calm and precise as a scalpel. On the night of the party, the apartment smelled of candles and store-bought food. She floated through the room in a dress I bought her 3 years earlier for an anniversary, laughing with the people whose faces would take on new expressions later that night. The lights dimmed for the slideshow because that's what people do at parties. They dim the lights to make the moments look more cinematic. I pressed play. The first slides were a lie, a necessary courtesy. Childhood photos, our wedding day, holidays where we smiled like the people we pretended to be. She beamed. Her friends oohed. Then the images shifted, the cadence breaking like a record skipping. The screen showed a hotel lobby with a date and time. Next, a short clip. The two of them entering a room, closing the door with quick, practiced gestures. The audio had been muted. This was not about sensationalism, it was about proof. I watched the color drain from her face as the crowd registered the footage. There's a peculiar sound that fills the room when someone realizes their life has been made public. The slow exhalation of chairs shifting, a few curses under breath, phones being fumbled out of pockets. Her coworker was at the party, awkwardly smiling in the corner as if he could pretend the footage was a malfunction. He could not. I had planned more than the unveiling. I had gone to HR the day before and sent an encrypted folder with the same materials, flagged as possible workplace misconduct. I had texted the few people I trusted who knew enough about procedure to make sure the reveal would not be dismissed as private vendetta. The evidence landed before the gasps had settled. She begged me to stop the slideshow. She made a small practice speech about misunderstandings and being young and foolish, as if months of clandestine rendezvous could be folded into a phrase. I let the videos continue. Then I pulled out an envelope and walked it across the room to where she stood. She read the first line aloud, voice collapsing into a sound I recognized only when it was fragile. Divorce papers. I had the signatures filled in, the lawyer's stamp, the account transfers prepared. I did not shout. I did not assault. I waited for the party to dissolve into whatever it would become. Some would call it scandal, others would call it clarity. People moved in clumps, some offering pity, others abandoning her like crabs scuttling off a rock when the tide changes. The day after the party, HR had summoned the coworker for questioning and asked her to step aside pending an internal review. The company reassigned her projects while they investigated any misuse of company time or expense accounts. My files had included receipts linked to corporate dinners billed under innocuous descriptions. The coworker was put on leave, then quietly resigned. Her social circle fractured. Friends I assumed would stand by her recoil at the knowledge that she had been orchestrating a double life for months. Her parents called, their confusion edged with the kind of disappointment that cannot be softened with explanations. The professional and social consequences were exact and mechanical, not the chaotic screams revenge sometimes promises. I did not take pleasure in the slow unspooling of her life. Pleasure would have made me into something like her, addicted to the moment of someone else's ruin. What I felt was an odd mixture of vindication and melancholy, the relief that truth had been acknowledged, and the hollow that comes when what you loved is confirmed as betrayal. The house we had built with our hands and small joys did not vanish in a riotous crash. It folded into a quiet erasure. I moved my things into a small apartment a few blocks away, keeping only what would make the next mornings bearable. Her calls went unanswered. Her messages stacked up in unread piles. She tried to explain through friends. She sent letters that asked for forgiveness. She offered to go to counseling. I had done my part. The truth had been exposed. It could not be revised into something softer. Months later, the divorce was final. Custody negotiations were difficult, but with the evidence and the HR inquiry as context, the settlement protected my time with our child and the financial footing I needed to provide steady, ordinary days. She lost her job in the industry that had fed her ambition. The coworker's career collapsed with it. People occasionally asked if I had gotten revenge. I would say no. I had gotten truth, and truth felt like a kind of permission. Permission to sleep without waking to the taste of betrayal. Permission to teach my child that loyalty meant something. Permission to start over without the weight of a story written by someone else. If there is a lesson that survives this rubble, it is not a recipe for vengeance. It is a caution about what happens when intimacy is parceled out like a private habit and the people you love are treated like conveniences. The footage on that laptop did not create the end. It revealed the end that had already been in motion. My revenge was not a scream or a spectacle so much as the slow, efficient unmaking of the fiction that had been sold to me. After the dust cleared, I learned to cook one new meal well, to fold laundry without thinking about everything that had gone wrong, and to find that small, stubborn joy in my child's laugh. The rest of life, I suppose, is the work of rebuilding trust in small increments and deciding finally that trust will not be given away lightly again.